Filipe is Chief Customer Officer at LuxProvide. So of course he will introduce what LuxProvide is doing, but also talking about the different options that you have to work with Meluxina, HPCs, etc. in Luxembourg. And he will also talk about how to fund these activities. And we got people from Luxinnovation, Ralf Hustadt, that maybe some of you already know. Ralf is working at Luxinnovation as a senior advisor for digitalization, data economy. He's also in charge of the Gaia-X related topics. He's leading the National Competence Centre for Supercomputing in Luxembourg, something that we call NCC. Of course, he will introduce, he will be the first speaker, and he will introduce this NCC concept. And then we will have, that will be the last speaker of today, Maximilian Przybyl, that is working also at Luxinnovation as senior advisor for corporate R&D and innovation support. He will present also, he will complement what Filipe will present in terms of funding opportunities that maybe you can get from the Ministry of the Economy this time to work under this topic. So I think I'm done with the introduction. So the order of the presentation will be Ralf first. So Ralf, you are welcome to share your slides now. And we will start discovering the NCC topic. Just to remind that in the chat, you are free to ask your questions right away. In case that you want to wait the end of the presentations from the speaker, then we will take your questions directly, because it's the reasons why we are using Teams, is that it's very easy to interact with the speakers. So Ralf, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for the kind introduction. I hope everybody can see my screen now. The good news is we have three parties over here. We have the NCC, we have LuxProvide, we have Luxinnovation, and there's money everywhere for the topic. So not saying too much about myself, because I had already the kind introduction from Jean-Philippe. So I want to talk a little bit about this, the Supercomputing National Competence Centre in Luxembourg. So what is the whole story about? Well, the whole story is quite simple. Basically, we have joined forces, we as Luxinnovation, with LuxProvide and with the university. What are we doing? Well, we are the first contact point for HPC or supercomputing and data analytics. And we collaborate, we're not alone there in Europe. We collaborate with a huge network of other NCCs across Europe, where we basically exchange ideas, use cases, find partners, all of that. So we're sort of a one-stop point for all topics around HPC. In case you don't know what it is, we're the one-stop point for HPC. In case you want to do something and you already know what it is, feel free to reach out to us. So what is the whole thing? Well, it's an EU-funded project. So the EU, Brussels, has decided that we need to do something on high-performance computing, and they're pouring money into that one. They said, go set up some national competence center for that one. And we're in there with three parties. That sets us a little bit apart from the other NCCs, where it's mostly, let's say, an academic-driven endeavor. So we have slightly different roles in there. We as Luxinnovation do more a little bit about what we're doing today. So we explain what it is. We explain the topic to parties in one-on-one. We have LuxProvide, and Filipe will talk a little bit about that one after me, where we have the luxury and the pleasure to have a commercial HPC, which is not the case in a lot of other countries. And we're also teaming up with the university, where, let's say, focusing on education and training, and where they also have some domain experts, and also in science. So this is Meluxina. I'm not going to spoil it too much, because I'll leave it to Filipe to explain a little bit more in detail. Just so much, if you look at the numbers, might not say too much to you, but if you look at the the cores, you might have something like 6 under your table if you have a big one, and you might have 1 GPU. So compare that with 90,800. It's a big beast, and Filipe will explain more about that one, and also what you can get in terms of funding to do something on this thing. So typically, just as an introduction, what HPC is traditionally focusing on, there's a lot of simulation modeling. There you can work with large data amounts. You can train an AI, which of course is the hot topic at the moment. You can do prediction forecasting. You can do testing, optimization, genome folding. The hot thing right now, for example, just set out a message this morning on LinkedIn where I found an interesting article that I shared, where people say, hey, this is super for accelerating the research on medication because it can speed up things a lot beyond what human beings can do. So not going into the cases over here because most of them are not related to health, but well, yeah, it's a slightly bigger slightly bigger, more computational power than your traditional machine under the desk. So what you can do with HPC is that, well, AI is currently the hot time. So NASA is using AI to design hardware 3 times better in performance than a human being can do. We know the fake news. This is not really a new thing. This third example was taken from a presentation we did last year. Sometimes there are also bad news about that one. That's why I kept it in here, saying, yeah, if you say salmon in a river and draw some pictures on it, you might end up with something where you say, yeah, but that doesn't really make sense, which is basically a clear indication that HPC is just still a very early technology, and people are still trying to figure out. And that's exactly the reason why the EU is pouring money into the whole thing. That's basically the presentation from my side. Feel free to scan the QR code. That's my business card. So if you want to know more on something, or if you have an idea, as I said, the NCC is there to support you in any way, if it's regarding money or if it's regarding how can I get access to this machine? Is there something in Europe where I can have a bigger machine? For example, we also have access to different things because we're sharing them. That's what the EU has put some money in. Or if you just say, hey, I need a partner and I haven't found him yet in Luxembourg, maybe can you connect or search for us for a partner in the greater region or even across Europe? That's exactly where we can help you out. So that's, in a nutshell, the introduction to the NCC. Filipe, ready to go? I'm stopping sharing now. Your turn.
Okay, well, let me start sharing my screen. I hope that you are seeing it.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay, so I will put now on. Okay, well, good afternoon also. My name is Filipe Pais, as was mentioned. I'm the Chief Customer Officer for LuxProvide, and I'm very happy to be here with you all, basically to tell you more about LuxProvide, but also what we can offer and how can we help you moving forward. So that is a slide very similar with the one that Ralf was sharing a couple of minutes ago. So LuxProvide, who are we? Well, we are the company that is operating the national supercomputer Meluxina. So the national supercomputer, as it mentions on its name, it's an investment from the government of Luxembourg, but also from the European Commission, with the goal of setting up an high-performance computing center in Luxembourg to help, well, research, academic, but also companies to take benefit of a high-performance computing platform in order to implement innovative projects towards data, AI simulations, and helping, helping the country to become a data-first digital economy. So we have a lot of GPU and CPU cores. Basically, the main difference between CPU and GPU are much more performant and normally are using more for AI workloads, while CPU is more used on simulations and big data analytics. Beside the hardware that we have in place, we have also a software stack with more than 300 softwares installed, where, for example, an end customer can deploy an AI model on PyTorch or TensorFlow and basically start to train this model and start to get results about it. So one thing that is important, and for health tech companies even more, we are a sovereign platform. So we are, as I mentioned, we have a platform that is owned by the government of Luxembourg, that is based in Luxembourg and is operated by Luxembourgish local teams. So that ensures, of course, sovereignty, but also high speed and low latency for advanced applications that are related with data, big data analytics, and AI. Another thing that is very important and differentiates LuxProvide and Meluxina from all the other HPC centers in Europe is that first, and as mentioned also, we are not only an investment that towards research and academic. The goal of this investment was to provide or to deliver the platform for the commercial and public sector entities. And because of it, and taking that into consideration, the supercomputer was installed on a data center tier 4, which are the state-of-the-art data centers that ensures resiliency, security, and are the same kind of data centers that are used from public cloud providers or other kinds of or private cloud providers. From another side, also, we are an ISO 27001 certified company, which means that we also implement all the security measures around using the platform, but also assessing the platform. That meaning that we are definitely a platform that is used for developing projects, but we ensure state-of-the-art security and sovereignty for companies that works with sensitive data. What we provide or what our services. So as I mentioned, in the end, we have an hardware platform. So we provide high performance computing as a service, meaning that if you need a lot of compute capacity to run your applications, we can provide you this compute capacity, but we also provide, as I was mentioning, due to our software stack, we provide you an AI and big data analytics platform, meaning that on the top of this hardware, you have all the frameworks that you need to deploy and run your models. Meaning that, so we provide you these services or software services on top of the hardware. And last but not the least, because we have a team of data engineers, HPC engineers, system engineers, we can also deliver you consulting services. Normally, these consulting services are more to help the end customer to fine-tune the software model. For example, when you move to an HPC center to a supercomputing, normally you need to parallelize your jobs to take more benefit of the compute capacity that you have there, and also to be more quickly on running your models. And so we can help you to fine-tune your software, to deploy the software, but also to do changes in order to take more benefit of the platform that we put to you. So, and now talking also about the platform and why we are here. So as I mentioned, you can access the platform from the Euro HPC if you are a research or academic institute, or you can access the platform from a commercial perspective. And the commercial perspective is very simple. So you reach out to us, we work with you to understand what are your needs, if it is only compute, if it is compute and platform, or if you need also our services, and we can set up with you a commercial agreement that will help you to take the benefit of your solution and our platform. Saying that, and we are the only we are one of the few HPC centers that has this dual approach towards the market. And bearing in mind that we are here also to create an impact on the local economy and to help the local entities to take benefit of the investment that we made here. Since the end of last year, with the support also of the government, we decided to put in place a program to help companies to take benefit of the platform and to experiment. So, and saying that, we create a program to help startups, scale-ups, and SMEs to use the platform. And this program has basically two flavors. One, we call it Initiate, and is why I was talking about experiment the platform, understanding what are the benefits that it can bring to your business. And the second one is Cashback, which basically would be the second stage. You understand, or you already understand what are the benefits of the platform, and you have a specific project where this platform and our services can add value to your project, and you can apply for this program. So let me go in more detail about the two programs that we have in place. So Initiate, like I was saying, that is an experimentation program or funding program, and it's basically gives you a free access to the platform that worth around 25K. And how did we split this investment? Basically from one side on the hardware side. So we are talking about the end customer can choose between CPUs or GPU node hours or a mix of both. On storage, because normally when you deploy a model, you need also to have the data, and to have the data, you need storage on the platform. But also we provide you support. So we provide you support on ongoing basis. In addition, we give you also an onboarding workshop to understand how to make use of the platform, and we provide you also some consulting hours to help you to deploy and take benefits of your model. That program is up to 6 months, and basically any startup that has, and here are the eligibility requirements, so funded on the last 5 years, that never had granted any funding from LuxProvide, or didn't have any contractual agreement with us in place, can apply for this funding program. Of course, that we will, as soon as you apply, now we'll explain you how can we apply. We will revise your application, and we will give you our decision, because it will also be related with the availability that we have on the platform. But the good news is, until now, we didn't reject any applications till now. So this one is the Initiate program, like I mentioned, more for experimentation, but the package that we put in place gives you, I would say, a very good a mix of compute and storage and services that for the time of 6 months, you can definitely go deep on the platform and understand what are the benefits that could bring to your business. Then we have the other one, that is Cashback 80%. And this one is like, we work with the Ministry of the Economy, and we fine-tune an RDI specifically for this access to Meluxina. And this program is an RDI with an 80% cashback. So meaning that you as a company, you will work with LuxProvide and Luxinnovation to do an application of a project where you want to take the benefits of services and from LuxProvide. This application will then be submitted. And the good thing is that we have an agreement with the Ministry of the Economy that the process of approving and moving forward with this funding is much quicker than the normal ones. So that is also exactly to giving you some agility on your process and get, as soon as possible, a positive answer to use and to start a project with LuxProvide and our platform. To apply for any of these projects or programs, sorry, it's very easy. So you can go to our website, that is luxprovide.lu services and /services/programs. There is a small form where you can apply. You send it, and our SLAs, and on the next 24 hours, we will answer you with some questions in order that we start the application process. And from my side, is what I wanted to share with you. I hope that it was clear, but I believe that we have a Q&A in the end that can basically help you to have more details on the approach. Thank you very much.
So Max, you can now share your slides. That's perfect. We are seeing them.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So thanks for having me, first of all. I will now also talk about some, let's say, less technical, but therefore more, I would say, important stuff like funding, and especially the RDI aids for companies, in your case, health tech companies that would like to benefit from state aid grants. Maybe just to start with a short introduction about the general principles of the state aids. So those are subsidies from the Ministry of the Economy. Luxinnovation is here to offer you some tailor-made support in order, as Filipe also already mentioned in his presentation, to help you prepare your applications. But the money in the end is not coming from us, but only from the Ministry of the Economy. And those are subsidies that are there to encourage only Luxembourgish companies to invest more into their research and development, but also innovation activities. And there are actually two funding streams, I would say. What we have seen so far in the past is that most of the grants have been based on a non-competitive bottom-up approach. And since a couple of years, we now also see that there are more and more competitive joint calls coming up. But I will give you more details on the different things on the following slides. So maybe to start with the bottom-up approach. So based on the RDI law from 2017, you can see here on the slide that there are some very different aid schemes and types of aids. I highlighted here in blue the most interesting ones concerning the HPC usage. On the very left side, you can see the innovation aid for SMEs. So that's actually the cashback 80% program that Filipe also presented in his presentation. So I will not go into any details here. Maybe just as a brief reminder, this aid scheme is only applicable to SMEs, not to large companies. And here it's really only about external costs to your company. So it's about, for instance, consulting costs from LuxProvide, costs that they will charge you for using the Meluxina infrastructure, but it's not about your internal costs within the company. That's also one of the biggest differences compared to the second category that you can see here on the slide, which are the project-driven aid schemes. Those are accessible to all kinds of companies, so both SMEs, but also large companies. And here, with the biggest difference, that you can also cover not only external costs, but also internal costs within your company. But I will again go into details on the following slides. Now, here I selected the feasibility studies and also the R&D aid schemes, which seem the most interesting ones for your projects. The other aid schemes, such as open innovation and about growth, the young innovative enterprise, I think they are not so relevant for the HPC usage, but in case you have any questions, we can also go into more detail about them either during today's Q&A session or in an individual session that we can schedule together. Now, coming to the R&D aid schemes, so RDI aid schemes, let's say, targeting on the one hand feasibility studies to really demonstrate that your projects, your objectives are feasible from a, let's say, technical, but also economic perspective. They could be interesting for this type of project and for using the Meluxina infrastructure, because they allow you to really determine this feasibility, let's say, go or no-go question towards your R&D project. I think what's definitely of interest to many of your companies is the part here in blue about the R&D projects themselves. So here you can see that depending on the size of the company, the aid intensity will will be different. So the larger your company, the smaller the aid intensity, and the smaller your company, the more aid you will get. And in addition to that, we will also do a differentiation here between two types of R&D. We have first the industrial research, which is about generating new knowledge that is maybe not only new to your company, but really new to, let's say, a market or an industry. So you are really doing work and research in order to generate knowledge that you can afterwards apply. And the application part would then be part of the experimental development. Here, it's not about generating this knowledge, but really about using it, combining it, and applying it simply to develop something, to develop maybe a new product, a new service. It could also be an improved product or an improved service. So that's really up to your projects, where the Ministry of the Economy will do an individual assessment. And we at Luxinnovation, we are also there to help you prepare your applications, fill in the templates, and also to help you identify the aid schemes that seem most appropriate in your specific case. Now, coming back to the eligible project costs, I said before that for the innovation aid for SMEs, only external costs to the company are eligible. Here, within the project-driven aid schemes, there are some other categories of costs that you could also get co-funded from the ministry. You have the most important category, probably the internal staff costs, on which you will also get a forfeit of 25% for additional overheads. But you can also cover costs like the depreciation costs of your machines, your hardware that you will be using during the project duration, also some consumables if you need to buy some licenses or some other materials to do some testing. And last but not least, the most interesting cost category probably for today, the special cost category, where you can include all the external costs to your company. So for instance, consulting costs, or also the costs of using the HPC infrastructure. So typically the cost that LuxProvide would charge you to benefit from their services or from their help during your projects. You could also include them here in the special costs category and get co-funded on them as well. Now, who says granting also says eligibility criteria. And here you have an overview of the most important ones. In view of the timing, I will not go into all the details, but just in a nutshell, so we have a couple of criteria at the company level, and we have some of them at the project level. At the company level, very important, what Filipe also mentioned during his presentation is the incentive effect, meaning that you would first need to hand in and submit your application to the Ministry of the Economy before you can start your project developments and before you can also start signing any agreements. So for instance, if you are discussing with LuxProvide about using the Meluxina infrastructure, you would first need to submit the state aid application to the ministry before you should sign the agreement. In addition, there's also a very important criterion about the undertaking not being a difficulty. That's a purely financial criterion where we would verify that the company has not lost more than 50% of its subscribed capital due to accumulated losses. In addition, the ministry will then also have a look at your economic impact, meaning that you will create or already have created some substance in Luxembourg, and that it will be the applicant company who benefits from the grant that will also be exploiting the results afterwards. Then the third criterion is about the co-financing capacity, because as you saw on the previous slide, it's always about a co-funding from the Ministry of the Economy. You will never get up to 100%, meaning that each company would also need to contribute a certain percentage on its own. And that can be made up of available money that you have within your company or some cash flow that you will generate in the future, some loans that can be really a mixture of different sources. And yeah, without going into detail about the project level criteria, so they are quite obvious, I would say, because your project needs to be innovative, meaning that it's complicated, that it's not easy to achieve it, that you will face some technological challenges, and that based on these challenges, based on that project, you will then be able to develop a new or improved product or service. Yeah, so about the timeline, as I said, the Luxinnovation support is optional and free of charge, but we are there to support you if you want to get some help from us. Only at the moment that you submit your application to the Ministry of the Economy, you should start, or you can start signing binding agreements, start your project developments. That's really important because otherwise the incentive effect will not be respected, and that would jeopardize the whole eligibility of your project. Then the rest of the slide is not so important in the details, I would say. The important thing is that what Filipe already mentioned. For the 80% cashback program, the Ministry of the Economy really put in place a fast track to treat your applications in a record time, I would say, because for the bigger projects, the R&D projects, there we are talking on average about 6 months from the moment of submission to the funding notification that you will get from the ministry. Now, very briefly only also about some new initiative that we created together with the Ministry of the Economy and also the National Research Fund a couple of years ago, which is the joint call HPC. I will not go into all the details because, as you can see in the headline, the HPC call is currently closed. So it's not possible to submit some new applications to this very specific call. But we are currently also discussing the possibility of doing a new call, but it's not yet clear when it will be, if it will be only about HPC or potentially also about some other HPC-related topics. But just to give you a general understanding of what this joint call was about. So it is really in the interest of the Luxembourgish government to foster R&D collaborations between Luxembourgish companies and Luxembourgish research institutes. And therefore, this call has been put in place to bring together these both worlds and to offer co-funding to both sides involved in the project. So you can see that here in the HPC call, for instance, the companies could get up to 700,000 euros of grants of funding from the Ministry of the Economy, while the research institutes could benefit from a grant of up to 400,000 euros for their specific costs. And the aid intensities are, as you can see here, more or less the same as for the R&D projects, meaning that depending on your size of the company and the technical complexity, you can get up to 80% of co-funding from the ministry, while your research partner could get up to 100% of funding. For the criteria, those are really the same that also apply for all the other types of RDI funding. And for the research institutes, you will also need to be eligible within the FNR. Now, in view of the time, I will just keep it very short about the timeline. As I said, the call is closed. So just to give you a general grasp about how this call is set up, it's usually set up in 2 phases. A first phase that is quite easy, I would say, to prepare. It's about a short project outline, which is usually about a couple of pages long, to get a good understanding of what you plan to do within your project and who the consortium partners will be. The idea is also, because as you can see, the process nevertheless takes almost 10 months, to not make everyone advance to phase 2, but only those projects that have some realistic chances of getting funding in the end. Because during the second phase, you will then, together with your consortium partners, be asked to prepare a full project proposal, meaning a really detailed project application together with with your partners, and that will then be evaluated by an independent expert panel from the FNR, which will prepare a ranking list of the projects. They will also present that to the Ministry of the Economy State Aid Commission, and afterwards there will be a joint decision from both the Ministry of the Economy and the FNR. So maybe just one last sentence before I leave the floor for the Q&A. This joint call process is actually super interesting for Luxembourgish consortia because it allows you to benefit from a synchronized submission and evaluation process. That's something very unique, I would say, because also in the bottom-up applications, it's possible to do research collaborations between companies and research institutes, but the process is not aligned. And here in the joint call, you can really have one application process. You need to prepare one project application, and in the end, you will also get one joint funding decision. So I guess that I already overspent my time. So thanks a lot for listening, and happy to answer your questions.
Bravo, and thank you to all the speakers, Filipe, Ralf, and Max. So indeed, it's now time for question. And sorry, it looks like we have had like some issue with the chat that was closed. Now it has been turned on again, so you can use it now. And you also have a Q&A tab where you can ask your question. Alternatively, you can raise your hand and ask directly the question to the speakers. So is there someone who wants to start? I don't see any hands raised. We got in the chat some questions to Filipe. So you will start, Filipe. We're talking about the Initiate program. So as you mentioned, the applications has to be sent using the website of LuxProvide, right?
Yes, exactly. So on the website of LuxProvide, you will put your, well, there is some fields that needs to be filled. It's the name of the company, the contact, few information. We will receive it. We will then contact you back, and we will ask you basically because here the question is also about the timeline and what is the decision criteria. We will reach out to you and basically ask you what is a project, what you want to accomplish, what are your needs. So very basic questions to understand in more deeper what is a project that you want to deploy on Meluxina. And then the timeline it will depend, but normally it's very short. So meaning that if everything is clarified between the interactions and we don't have any doubts from both sides, so we can quickly move to a contractual phase that is basically signing the agreement that you can use the platform. Well, if there is any more, let's say, legal questions, then probably it could take more time. But to be honest, the only process that took us more time than usual was a project where a company was basically applying for using Meluxina for a specific project that could be also tagged as defense. And when we are talking about defense, these needs also to be revised by the ministry or by someone that can take a decision on it, because we are talking about data that probably could come from suspicious sites. But without that in mind, it's a very quick process.
So my understanding is for the Initiate program, you only need to talk with the company and then sign a contract between you and the company. There's no need to send a full application to the Ministry of the Economy or this kind of stuff.
No,
that's
no.
the reason why it's so efficient. Yeah,
it's a direct interaction between the company and ourselves. And like I said, we are asked basic questions about the project and the needs. And if everything is okay on both sides, we move forward.
That's excellent. And my question about the Initiate program, just to complement your answer, is that you mentioned that to be eligible, you need to never have signed another contract with LuxProvide before. But you also mentioned that the cap is 25K. So in case, I don't know, that you want to spend, I don't know, 12K and then to have another time with maybe 13K, is that something possible or not?
No, so basically, well, when we say 25K, we are not giving 25K, so we are giving a credit of usage and services that if we were pricing it, the price would be around 25K. The idea is that, well, you can use what is on the package. If you don't use everything, well, you have the timeline for using. Of course, that we say the timeline is 6 months. If, for example, we end to the 6 months and the company will want still use some compute capacity that didn't use during this period, we are flexible to discuss it.
Okay,
so
yeah.
we will not close the doors
on
that.
That's very clear. We have another question on the 80% cashback program. You have said apparently that it is a fine-tuned RDI application. Do we need to apply using MyGuichet, that is the national platform to apply to RDI programs, or is there another way to submit the application? I don't know. And the other link to that, who is in charge of the evaluation of the program again?
Well, very good question. So the idea is that we will, and I was looking to Max that was saying yes with his head. So we will use MyGuichet, but in the end, before that, we will work with the customer to do the application. So Luxinnovation and ourselves, we will work with the customer. We will help him to do the application. It's not a complex application like a normal RDI schema, so it's much more simple, but still we need to follow the normal process. So we will help the company doing the application. It will be submitted by MyGuichet, and then it will be evaluated by the Ministry of the Economy. What we have from an agreement from the Ministry of the Economy is that they will provide us an SLA of 4 weeks to respond.
Yeah, that's pretty fast.
Yeah.
And so we have a question from Stefan and he's explaining what he's doing. So Stefan, I don't know, can you take the mic and ask directly a question to Filipe or Max?
Yes, of course. Thank you for the invitation, Jean-Philippe. The idea is there is a company who works a lot with video data, which is interpreted by artificial intelligence, like face recognition, gesture recognition, and these data amounts. Yeah, I suggest I collect the amount of data in order to give you something to calculate with, because I personally, as a permit holder in Luxembourg, I do not know how large this data is, but I can imagine over the course of months and years, it keeps growing and it will be consistently analyzed in order to tell the patients and the medical doctors to what extent there is a deterioration of behavior. Yeah, it is watching the breath frequency. It is watching the flexibility and fluidity of movements. And so you have lots of video footage that would be stored. And I can imagine you take a case, a use case, you take the amount of patients, and whoops, there you go, and may lead lots more of storage than we currently imagine. Whom would I address with the first calculation which is being made in the US now? With whom should I talk, whether it makes sense to involve Meluxina, yes or no?
Well, I think that what we are asking, we need to probably to discuss in more detail what is the process. One thing that regarding the storage, so we have a lot of storage capacity. Yeah, so we have more than 5 petabytes of storage capacity. Of course, that one thing that is important, we don't storage data for big periods of time. And what we do is we store the data, you bring your model, you train your model, and then we are always talking about project storage data.
It's not
Meaning
only
that-
about the storage, if I may interrupt, it's also about the interpretation and the artificial intelligence to interpret. It is deep learning processes.
Yeah.
So what I would suggest is that I link the technical mind of parrots, which is not me. Yeah, I'm just a lawyer and commercial, but in order to see how the extent of calculation power, storage would help parrots, I suggest I collect the data and forward it either to you from LuxProvide or to Vittorio, yeah, who was a contact recently. And then we could see in how far it makes sense and then formulate our application.
Exactly. So if you are talking with Vittorio, you are talking with one of the right contacts. So Vittorio is on my team. So if you are reaching out to him, he will probably also share with me what the process. But yeah, so my suggestion is that you keep the contact or the connection with Vittorio, and I will also follow up with him to understand how is the process and how can we move forward.
Excellent. And should we opt after the initiate to the cashback option, then it is important to have a timestamp of our grant application to your organization, Jean-Philippe, right?
Yeah.
Good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so just to clarify, Max, about the payment.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure that I got the question about the timestamp.
In the chat, I think you have said
you mean the stamp
the question.
of the
Yeah, who is paying the grant at the end? So on the cashback and maybe also the HPC, the joint calls, who is paying the bill then? Is it Luxinnovation, the MECO, LuxProvide? I don't know.
Indeed, that's the Ministry of the Economy who will pay in the end the subsidy. Just in terms of process, maybe as a short fresh up, it's like Filipe said before. Ideally, you should reach out to LuxProvide first to discuss about the feasibility of the project, if it makes sense for both sides. And once you clarified, let's say, the draft scope of your project, we can then also get involved to help you fill in the innovation aid application, which is really, as Filipe pointed out very correctly, it's a very brief application. It's like a Word document with 5-6 questions more or less, and an Excel file where you just need to prepare the sum actually of the quote that LuxProvide gave you, and then you can submit everything via MyGirshe to the ministry. And as of that day, you can start your project. I hope that clarified the question.
Yeah, I think it is, and thank you very much. Basic question: is it possible to accumulate several fundings? So maybe, for example, the 80% cashback and the LTI ones, or the joint course maybe. Maybe it's more Max for that question. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That's indeed a very good question. So in theory, yes, it's possible to do several projects, but not to do several applications for the same project. So for instance, you could, and I guess, Filipe, you can complete on that point. I think a very good way, if you never used HPC before, could be to start with the LuxProvide's programs, maybe the Initiate or the Cashback program. And once you have tested on HPC, you got some first knowledge to then, in a second step, or 1 or 2 years after that, do a larger R&D project, for instance. So that's typically possible. For the Ministry of the Economy, the most important thing is that you are eligible together with your project when applying for them, or when applying for the grants, and that you don't apply twice or several times for the same costs.
Okay, I think it's very clear. Do we have additional questions from the floor? You still have like 9 minutes for benefiting from the speakers of the day. So in case, please raise your hand or take the mic or use the chat. A question for Ralf.
No, I don't really have a question, but I just wanted to share.
There is a question for you in the chat. That was what I was mentioning.
Yeah, I wanted to share something before that, so I'll just put that in the chat. And that's basically has been other European countries have been working on quite a lot of projects, and there are some success stories. I'm sharing one link in there. So if you click on that link and then filter to health, you'll see one couple few really nice stories like what you can do with an HPC. There is no dedicated, so to answer the question in the chat, there is no dedicated network to register. Basically, the network is the network with the other NCCs. So feel free to reach out to me directly, and then we'll check on like what are your needs, and then we'll see who you make sense to connect to.
Yes, thank you. That's very clear as well. Last question also for Max. I was listening to your presentation on the HPC joint call. So of course, there is no current running projects and it's close to application. But you also mentioned some figures like 700K for companies and 400K for public research. Of course, in case that there is something like a new call somewhere, can we be confident that the range of the grant will be like similar, different, will be exactly the same? I don't know.
That's a good question. Question I cannot answer as of today, I would say. I would expect that it will be in a similar range, but that's really out of my say today, where we will be.
But by the way, complementing, so the call happened last year, and last year we had 4 projects that were granted with the HPC call, and the numbers. Then I'm not aware what was the number granted for each project because that is confidential but I know that last year the thresholds were the same as this year. So at least one thing that we can tell you is that what happened last year regarding the process and the thresholds happen again this year. So hopefully it will happen on the next one. But yeah, we will need to see it.
Yeah, what I can say, I cannot give the details, but there will definitely be something about HPC, about digitalization, about technologies like AI and machine learning, which is under discussion. All the details will follow in due time.
Okay, and I guess for these joint calls, there is a role for Luxinnovation, maybe helping companies to find like some partners, eligible partners in Luxembourg, so that they can be a complete consortium to apply to the grants. And so, of course, Ralf, Max, I think Filipe as well, you are playing a very important role with this, connecting people in order to apply to such grants. Yeah, so in case there are no more questions, thank you very much again for your participation. You, the speakers of the day, like Filipe, Ralf, and Max, thank you for your time. I think it was super clear and very helpful. Thank you also to the participants for listening. I hope it was like that you take some good messages from it. Just to talk about and to promote our next webinars. So the next one will be on the April 30, same time, 1 p.m. And it will be all about like collaborating with associations, especially patients groups for developing technologies. And we have invited Alzheimer Europe, that is a very important group of patients in Luxembourg, to explain how we can collaborate with them. Of course, there will be like 6th of June, something dedicated to IP, together with EPIL, that is National Agency for Intellectual Property. And we will discuss about the strategy specific to FTech, especially in digital world, to apply to secure your your IP in IP assets in FTech and digital FTech. So it would be very interesting, I think. And finally, I would like also to remind that on the 14th and 15th of May, we will have in Luxembourg a great conference at the Chamber of Commerce Center of Luxembourg City, talking about like the European digital health tech topic, how to enter into the market or to launch new products or to make clinical validation for digital medical devices. So you can already register if not done, and we will be happy to see you there. I'm seeing now that Anne is posting a lot of things into the chat, so probably some links to get to this conference and to register to the different events. Feel free to contact us. Once again, we will share a link with the slides to get the slides and to access to the replay of the event of the day. Once again, thank you so much for having attend to this webinar today. Have a nice day. Thank you again, speakers. See you soon.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye bye.